Okay, let's dive right in. I want you to think about your all-time favorite song. Got it? Now, what if I told you the lyrics you've been singing along to aren't just art, but something else entirely? Today, we're unpacking a really wild theory from an analysis called Symphonies of the Shadow. And it suggests that hidden behind the music we all know and love is a secret language of contracts, confessions, and yeah, even control.
So, we all pretty much agree on the basics, right? Song lyrics are just poetry with a melody. Their stories, their feelings, all set to a beat. That's the version we're all taught, and it makes perfect sense.
But the theory we're exploring today just throws that whole idea out the window. It asks us to consider that a song isn't just a piece of art. It could actually be a binding agreement, a spell that's being cast every time it's played, or maybe a confession hidden right there in plain sight. Look, our job here isn't to tell you what to believe, but to show you the logic behind this theory, to teach you how to decode the music for yourself.
And to do that, we have to go back to the very beginning. According to this theory, the entire blueprint for this hidden language starts in one very specific, very mythic place, the Crossroads, down in the Mississippi Delta. A place where, legend says, a deal was made that changed music forever. And at the center of that legend, a bluesman named Robert Johnson. The theory calls him Patient Zero. The story goes that he was a pretty terrible guitar player who vanished for a little while, only to return with this just supernatural talent. And the supposed price for that talent? His soul. He basically becomes the archetype, the original model for every musician who supposedly trades the eternal for a little bit of earthly fame.
And this, right here, is where we start learning to listen differently. When we hear a line like, "Hello, Satan, I believe it's time to go," our first instinct is to think, oh, that's a metaphor for sadness or his inner demons. But this theory says, no, listen closer. Hear it as a literal report. It's Johnson documenting a real conversation, saying, hey, the entity I made a deal with is here to collect. It's about training our ears to hear the confession, not just the poetry.
So what was the consequence of that collection? Well, Robert Johnson died when he was just 27 years old, making him one of the very first members of the now infamous 27 Club. The theory argues this is no tragic coincidence. It's a contractual expiration date. The deal is good until you're 27, and then the bill is due.
Okay, let's jump forward in time to the 60s and 70s because things get even more interesting. As music technology got better, the theory claims the communication methods did too. The deals weren't just being made at some dusty crossroads anymore. Now they were supposedly being woven directly into the vinyl records themselves, using a technique called backmasking.
And you can't talk about backmasking without talking about the most famous example of all time, Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. Now, the theory loves to point out that guitarist Jimmy Page was openly fascinated with the occultist Aleister Crowley. I mean, the guy actually bought Crowley's old house. So for theorists, this suggests the band's intentions might have been a bit more than just musical.
So, when you look at this, the big question is this real, or is it just our brains trying to find patterns that aren't there? You know, like seeing shapes in the clouds. Skeptics have a name for it, pareidolia, but the theory argues it's completely intentional. It's a spell designed to sneak past your conscious mind and plant a message deep in your subconscious mind. A simple verse becomes a powerful invocation.
And you can apply the same open confession lens to so many other classics. I mean, take Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. From this point of view, it's not some abstract opera. It's Freddie Mercury's personal story. The line about killing a man is supposedly him killing his old self to seal the deal. And the result? Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me. It's all right there. Now we're moving into the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. And this is where the theory claims the whole thing went corporate. It became industrialized. It wasn't about individual artists making a pact anymore. It was about a whole system of control built right into the music industry machine.
And a huge piece of the code from this era is the Rain Man. And no, this has nothing to do with the movie. In this world, Rain Man is a code name for a specific entity. It's the one who makes it rain with money and success. And the umbrella, which you see pop up in songs and videos from artists like Rihanna, well, that's the symbol that you've accepted its protection and also its ownership.
You know, there might not be a more direct, in-your-face example in this entire theory than this line from Eminem. It's literally presented as a conversation between the artist, Marshall, and the entity that he claims has taken him over. It just lays out the contract terms with terrifying clarity. You prayed for a record deal, and something answered, and it wasn't just Dr. Dre.
So on top of all the spiritual contract stuff, there's an even darker layer to the theory, something called monarch mind control. It's a pretty disturbing idea, and here's how it allegedly works. Step 1. An individual is subjected to intense trauma to shadow their mind. Step 2. This causes the personality to split into multiple alters. Step 3. Those alters can then be programmed. And Step 4. They can be triggered to perform. The theory's poster child for this? Beyoncé's alter ego, Sasha Fierce. When Beyoncé says that Sasha takes over on stage and does things she never would, this theory says that's not just artistry. That's a programmed alter being activated.
And that brings us all the way to today. According to the theory's timeline, the game has completely changed. The era of secret codes, of backmasking, of hiding things in lyrics, it's over. Now the symbolism isn't hidden at all. It's celebrated right out in the open, on the biggest stages in the world.
And a perfect example, according to this theory, is this lyric from Doja Cat. After she got a ton of backlash for using satanic imagery, her response wasn't to deny anything. It was, "I said what I said. I'd rather be famous instead." Through the lens of this theory, that's not a defense. That's a public confirmation of the deal, an open choice of fame over everything else.
And once you start looking for it, the theory says you'll see these overt rituals everywhere. Sam Smith's Grammy performance? Not just theatrics, but a public ritual. The horrible tragedy at the Astroworld Festival? Reframed by some as a mass energy harvesting event. And Lil Nas X? He doesn't just make a deal with the devil in his video, he literally becomes him. The symbolism is everywhere.
But it gets even deeper. The theory claims the control goes beyond just lyrics and images, right down to the actual sound waves hitting your ears. It argues that the standard tuning for all modern music, 440 Hz, was deliberately picked because it creates feelings of anxiety and disharmony. This is compared to 432 Hz, which is said to be the universe's natural, healing frequency. The implication is staggering. The very sound of music could be engineered to keep us all in a lower state of being. It's a war for your mind's frequency.
So, let's just recap this whole crazy journey. This table basically lays out the theory's timeline. It all starts back in the 30s with a physical encounter at a crossroads. By the 60s, it's gone underground into hidden rituals and backmask messages. Then, in the 80s and 90s, the industry takes over. The 2000s see the alleged introduction of mind control. And that leads us to right now, where the theory claims it's all just one big public performance. And that really brings us to the most important question of all. Look, whether you think this is all a hidden truth or just one heck of a thought experiment, you now have a new decoder ring for popular culture. This theory trains your eyes to see the symbols and your ears to hear the subtext, to listen between the lines. So the only real question left is, now that you have the decoder, how are you going to listen to music?